take this opportunity to first welcome Dr. Prashant Pandey as the speaker, as the moderator of this session. So, brief introduction of Dr. Pandey. He is currently the additional director and head transfusion medicine and transplant immunology at the JP Hospital, Noida, where he has been serving for the last 7 years. Prior to this, he was a consultant at Medanta, the Medicity, Gurgaon for 4 years, prior to which he was serving at Bangalore Global Hospitals as a consultant and in charge. He did his junior and senior residency from SGPGI Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow, and he had done his MBBS from KGMC, Lucknow. He has done his post-graduation in immunohematology and blood transfusion from SGPGI, Lucknow. Dr. Pandey has published more than 60 international and national journals in international and national journals. He is a reviewer of multiple journals. Some of them are Transfusion and Apheresis Science, Journal of Clinical Apheresis, Blood Transfusion, AJTS, Therapeutic Apheresis and Dialysis, etc. He is a Six Sigma Black Belt holder. He is a NABH hospital assessor from Quality Council of India, and till date he has assessed more than 20 hospitals. He is a recipient of H.D. Shourie Travel Fellowship Award from ISBTI 2010. He has been awarded the best paper in ISTM in 2013 and 15, the best oral paper award from ASFA, Texas, USA in 2020. He is a life member and a very active member of multiple national and international societies of transfusion medicine and transplant immunology, like ISBTI, ISTM, AABB, ISHI, ASHI, and ISBT. He is a co-convener of the special interest group Therapeutic Apheresis from the Indian Society of Transfusion Medicine. His area of interest is immunohematology, therapeutic apheresis, transplant immunology, flow cytometry, and academic research and publications. So we welcome you, Dr. Prashant, to this webinar. May I request you to take over from here?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajit. Thank you very much once again. And I would like to take this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Ravi for accepting the invitation for being a speaker. I would also, the topic is all about the organizing a successful blood donation camp. And the speaker for today's talk is Dr. Ravi. And if you see, Dr. Ravi is one of the panelists and one of the speakers of this whole series of talk. And he doesn't require any introduction. Frankly speaking, he doesn't require any introduction. Those who are working in the field of transfusion medicine, they are very well known with Dr. Ravi. He is very much interested in academics. He is very much interested in teaching programs for the MD and DNB candidates who are appearing in the exam. And he has done many workshops, national and international both. He has gone to Sri Lanka, he has gone to some of the Arabian countries for organizing wet workshop to let the technicians and doctors be aware with what exactly the immunohematology procedures are and how to identify the clinically significant antibodies and do the different workups like the serological evaluation of the autoimmune hemolytic anemia cases. So his area of interest, personally, I know him for more than 10 years and we both are very good friends actually. So, and he is doing very good at Manipal, Jaipur. So in short, what I would say, he is MD and DNB both in transfusion medicine. He's one of very few guys who has done both MD and DNB. He has a lot of paper published international, more international than the national journals, and that claims that yes, he has done a lot of good work in immunohematology. So his area of interest basically is in immunohematology, therapeutic apheresis, transplant immunology, and other areas which are core topics for the transfusion. And before selecting all these topics, we all had huddle why to have these administrative aspects for discussion. Sometimes it looks very boring, but when we were doing the MD, I think Dr. Ravi would agree with me, we could give a lot of focus on therapeutic apheresis. We could give a lot of focus on immunohematology. But when we come across such administrative topics, sometimes it becomes difficult for the MD and DNB candidates to answer the examiner's question. Sometimes it becomes very difficult when I become, after completing the MD, when we go and we have to get the license, we have to go in the camp. Sometimes we are not aware what exactly the process of organizing a blood donation camp. So during the first series, the 10 topics we have, this is going to be one of the most important topics for discussion. So now I would invite Dr. Ravi to please start the talk, so that, and I would request him to finish it in 30-35 minutes, so that we have a lot of time to discuss about the Zoom polling results and question and answers of the audience. So Dr. Ravi, please start the talk. I would like to invite you. Thank you, Dr. Ravi, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Not wasting time, I will start my presentation on organization of blood donation camp. Is my screen visible to all?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, sure. Okay, fine. Thank you. It's organization of blood donation camp. The first slide, where can one donate blood? Okay, the one can donate blood in blood banks, in blood donation camps, in blood mobiles. Nowadays, we are having a blood mobiles also as an option for donating blood now. And it has helped much lot in, I think, so in pandemic time, the blood mobiles were allowed. Because of that, the many blood banks can suffice the requirement of blood in the pandemic this time. Now, what is a camp? It's a vital source of voluntary blood donation. Specifically, it is a voluntary blood donation source. It's a platform for accessing of donors from indoors and distant places around. It's a prefix venues by organizer. We are not fixing, the organizers are fixing these venues like education institutions, industrial and commercial houses. Blood bank organize camps in these sites or premises on a fixed day as decided by SBTC and the mutual between blood bank and the organizers. Now, who can conduct blood donation camp? See, blood donation camp can be conducted by a licensed designated RBTC. It's a regional blood transfusion center, a licensed government blood bank, Indian Red Cross Society blood banks, and a blood bank run by charitable or voluntary organization. Again, should be recognized by SBTC or Union Territory State Blood Transfusion Council. But last year, there's a gazette amendment was there in the blood donation camp. Even a private hospital blood bank, that's many corporate hospital blood banks or a private hospital blood bank, now allowed to go for a blood donation camp. There is no need for any separate permission, but there are, like I know many state blood transfusion councils say you still need a permission or to conduct the camp, but I don't think so. It's my personal. You can contact you directly to SBTCs, concerned SBTCs, for whether you need the permission or still need or not need. But as per the gazette, there is not any mentioning there you need a separate permission to conduct a blood donation camp. It has been clear cut allowed now that private hospital blood bank can conduct the camps now. Only blood banks which are not allowed to conduct camp are private blood banks. I think so. There are very few numbers in India, from around 3,000 blood banks. There are hardly 4 or 5 as per my knowledge. They are not allowed to do a camp, but rest all blood banks are allowed to do camp. It is actually why this has been done to increase the voluntary blood donation. As I think so, the only source for procuring the camp in a voluntary condition is camps only. So that's why they are allowed all to do for a camp. Now, what are the advantages of collection of blood from camps? It's a safest source of blood. The intending donors get the opportunity to donate according to their convenience. They are the familiar faces around and known atmosphere, helping shedding their fear complex, mainly for the first time donors, you can see. It's a community participation. You can recruit new donors easily. Health status and habits of this indenting blood donors are known to the organizers. Organizers know what donors they are bringing to you. With the help of camp, you can even convert the non-donor to the donor, and this help in donor retention. But how does it differ from a fixed site? See, you are going towards them. You are taking the beds as close to possible as donors. You are going to their village. You are going to their office. You are going to their nearby area. You can say a society type of. And their site and convenient time is convenient to your donors. Mainly, we are conducting on holidays or Sunday. So they are conveniently timed. They can donate easily. Only voluntary donations. We are not replacement donations are not here. There are wider donor groups, large number of donation, easy motivation is there. You have a good opportunity and encouragement for a first time donors. It's a festive look. So always a positivity is there always, in a friendly environment. Donor feels always at ease, with less number of reactions always. And the negative attitude converts in positive attitude due to friends, due to group. Now, what are the organizations that can be approached for the camp? You can approach to religious organizations, educational, business communications, government, semi-government, private, medical organization, welfare, press, telecommunications, political organizations. You can even conduct on special days like national holidays, 15th August, 26th January, anything. And for this birth or death anniversaries, camps should not be held at jail. It is not allowed to conduct the camps in jail, not allowed in mental asylums, in areas with high prevalence of STDs. What are the steps of conducting a successful blood donation camp? There are three phases. One is a pre-camp phase, what is a camp phase on the day of the camp, and a post-camp phase. We will discuss our talk in these three phases now. Before that, there's a mobile vans. What are the merits and demerits of the mobile vans nowadays? Merits are they are well equipped with the donor coaches, examination rooms. Some of the vans with a good van, big vans, are having a wash basin. They are having a storage refrigerator. They are air conditioned. Refreshment corner is there, and mobility of site is very easy with the mobile van. But the demerits are they are costly. Not every blood bank can afford, and not of use in suburban areas and villages. It's very difficult to go in villages, this big vans, and not suitable for camps with large number of donors. You can again have a limited number of donors with the camp only, as you have limited coaches, two or three or four maximum. And the festive mood and friendly environment would not be there as in the camp directly. With in mobile van, there is there no doubt festive mood, but not as much that when you get in the proper camp. Now, coming to a pre-camp phase, what is the role of blood bank here? First of all, you need to understand what is the need of blood. Now, there are four approaches to estimate how much blood is needed, how much blood a blood bank needed. This can be estimated with the help of relation to hospital beds, if you are a hospital-based blood bank, in relation to total population, in relation to medical facility available, in relation to past blood usage. This is a detail of this. In relation to hospital bed, you can calculate easily like 3 to 15 units per hospital bed per year. I can give you an example. I am Manipal. I am having a 200 bedded hospital. If I calculate by 15, it is 3,000. I collect around 3,500 to 4,000 units per year. I collect. I think so. It's more than sufficient for me. Like this. In relation to total population, you can donation by 2% of population is sufficient. Like a population of 100 crores, 2 crores will be sufficient. In relation to medical facility available, number of hospitals in the vicinity of blood bank to which the blood bank is supposed to cater. For a standalone blood bank, this is a method. In relation to past blood usage, we can even calculate with this also for all blood banks. You can estimate the number of requisition you received and you served in over not less than 3 months, and you can extrapolate to around annual basis for 12 months. Like this, you can calculate what is your actual blood need for every blood bank. Now, how to approach to an organizer? There are ways like communities approach or request letters and a telephone calls nowadays. What should be the content of your letter? The content may be at first appreciate their noble gesture that they are helping you. They are always helping in a social service. They are always in a social service. Secondly, show them what a need of blood in your institute, why you need, as you're having a cancer patients or having a trauma patients. So there's a need of the blood in your institute. Thirdly, humbly, you request for the help, or you can ask their help in a particular period, like in summers, there are always a crunch of the camp is there. You can ask them to, you can donate, you can organize a camp in that summer always, and you can ask for a particular location, local always. And lastly, thanking with regards. This should be the content of your request letter. If it is confirmed with your mutual this camp, you should get a confirmation of camp written letter from the organizer with the following this things, like what will be the venue, what will be the approximate number of donors will be there in the camp, what will be the date and time of the camp, and the organizer detail like name, address, and mobile number. Before going for the camp, you should inspect. You should have a habit of inspection of the campsite. It's very important. The blood bank staff should visit the campsite venue to inspect its suitability for the camp, and there should be a checklist maybe provided to the organizer for the camp. These are the following things you should look at before starting of camp, or 1 day before going for a camp. Like they should what should be available in the site of the camp. There should be adequacy of the space for the anticipated number of donors. There should be proper lighting and ventilation. There should be water availability, drinking water availability. There should be a waiting space. There should be a donor screening space. There should be approximate, there's a number of tables and chairs should be there. I will give a rough idea of what number of tables and chairs required in the proper number of, depend on the donors of the camp. There should be a space for refreshment. There's a cleanliness of the site should be there. In summers, you may need a coolers or a fans. In winters, you may need a blankets. So these all things should be there and they should be arranged before the camp day. The space is the same only. Yeah. Now number of beds. This is a rough criteria, like the beds according to the donors. Like for 50 to 100 donors, you need 6 to 8 beds. For 100 to 200 donors, you need 8 to 10 beds. For 200 to 300, you need 10 to 14 beds, and for above 300, you need 14 to 18 beds. A general rule is to prepare one bed for the donation. I think so 10 tables are required. For this 10 tables will be required for one donor bed. For the tables and chair, in a pre-donation area, you need 3 to 4 tables for registration purpose and 10 to 15 chairs. Like in post-donation area, you need 4 to 5 tables and to 10 to 15 chairs for the refreshment or a memento, and 2 beds for election of donors. There are different IEC materials you required. This IEC acts as a complementary tool. This is information, education, and communication materials. The message can be emotional, scientific, or statistical, number of donations you have done, number of camps you have conducted, type of that, or any announcement. It can be in any material like a sticker or a keyring, badges, cards, book, folders, pamphlet, anything. Now, how to get ready for their donation? This instructions should be distributed by the organizer or a blood bank to the donors who are about to, they are making the list for the donors before the camp. They should be distributed to the donors that how to get ready for their donation. The instructions are like they should hydrate well, get a good night's sleep, wear something comfortable, eat a healthy meal before donation, avoid fatty foods, avoid fast, take all your medications and try to bring a list of same at the time of donation, bring an ID proof, bring a friend. Always keeping a friend with him is a good thing to come for a donation. Now, pre-camp fest, these all things were a role of the blood bank. Now, what is the role of organizers here now? The organizers play an important role for executing a successful camp. They can be a team, like they can make I can give you an example here only. They can be a theme committee, they can be a fundraising committee, they can be a volunteer committee. The theme committee, they work as a group for some task like choosing the theme for the camp, deciding what items will be needed, coordinating the giveaway prizes or memento, and decorating the area. Like fundraising committee will find out the potential sponsors and deciding the memento or prizes. Volunteer will greet the donors or help during donations, for giving snacks or refreshment, or supervising the children and other donors also. These are the committee example. Now, what is the final countdown before the day? Check the site arrangements, check parking, remind donors and reconfirm appointments, coordinate with all committees, coordinate with the blood bank team, and the confirmation of time for the start of the camp. Now, on the day of camp, again blood bank, there's loading of vehicle with necessary equipments, role of the staff nurse here, role of the team members, and the start of the camp on the correct time. See, punctuality is very important here. You can have a checklist. These are example of checklists. On the campsite, greet the donors for their efforts, ask the help of the organizers to plan the area accordingly, put up the banners, direction panels, donor instruction panels in their respective areas, divide the area like pre-donation area, post-donation area, and the donation area, allot the responsibilities to the team members as their area of the work, and always try to movement of donors should be as far as possible unidirectional. I'm giving you here, like this is some example of unidirectional. You can see donor came, there will be a registration desk, then there will be a weight and hemoglobin check, then there is a medical examination and questionnaire, then there is a blood donation area, then the refreshment and rest, then you can give a badges and the certificates, and the hearty send off to the donor. There's a unidirectional flow. Now, what will be the role of your team member and team leaders? The leaders should have a quality, leadership quality. They should be vigilant enough to avoid any mishappenings. They should take judgment to act according to the situation. and ensure the setup is ready before the donation is started. Punctuality is very important to start a camp at a proper time. Tackling any mistake at any step in a friendly manner, as they are we should avoid and handling the conflicts. We should handle the conflicts with the other team members at the campsites. Caring and communicative, and good. You should maintain the good rapport with the organizers. Team members. The members looking after the loading and unloading of vehicles should carry a checklist and verify before and after the camp. They should be functional, they should be well behaved, they should be friendly and properly dressed in uniform with wearing identity badges. The team members should encourage the donors, especially first time donors. They help the donors, and they should interact with the donors during and after donation. It will minimize the donor reactions, and there should be an organized work from every team members. This is all expected from team members. You should avoid mishappening like this. This is one of the example. If you doesn't tie these 10 tables, when the donor lie on these tables, it may disturb and the donors may get गिर जाएगा वो नीचे. Now coming to cold chain, you have to proper transport boxes should be used. The refrigerant recommended for the storage of blood in the camps is a wet ice in a leak-proof container. If you are transporting whole blood, which is not being used for a component preparation, the temperature transport should be 2 to 10 degrees Celsius, and the time collection must not exceed before processing. For the processing between collection and processing must not exceed 8 hours. Ice pack should be placed above the blood, not around or underneath. It should be placed above the blood. Never allow blood to touch the ice packs. There should be something in between the blood and the ice packs. Monitor temperature during the transportations. Nowadays, good data loggers are available for monitoring the temperature transportation. And the transportation of whole blood, if it is used for the component preparation, you usually transport 2 to 10 degrees in a very insulated box, but with no ice. Ice should not be there. And the time collection between collection process must not exceed 6 hours now. Coming to biomedical waste management. Biomedical waste management campsites. See, what are the waste it includes? Mainly, it is a detached needles of the blood bags commonly, and needle covers are there. Use cotton swabs. These are the most things which are biomedical waste here. Needle glass slides must be discarded in a puncture-proof container. Use swabs like blood soil items must be collected separately, which is sent for incineration. Each item should be properly packed and brought back to the department and for proper disposal. You should not keep there only. You should brought back to the department, brought back to the blood bank. Never leave any waste at the campsite. See, I am giving one news article here. This is a news article published in a midday news line. You can see in a photo. There all the cotton swabs are there, soiled cotton swabs kept in a left in the blood bank side, the campsite. This was the piles of the blood-soaked cotton swabs and used syringes. The syringe cover, actually not syringes. These were remains of the blood donation camp organized by NCP, which were also supported by actor Salman Khan as a tribute to those who lost their lives in 1317 serial blast in Mumbai. In this camp, it was in Pune actually. 7,000 people donated blood. Pune Municipal Corporation Director said it was a responsibility of blood banks involved in a camp for proper disposal of this waste as per the norms of biomedical waste management. And they even impose a fine of 5,000 rupees to each of 21 blood banks involved in this camp and use the money to dispose the waste. So that's why I think we should have a responsibility. We should never leave any waste at the campsite, and we should all the waste should be brought back to the department, back to the blood bank. Coming to refreshment, the refreshment corner should be well managed and should be offered neatly with a friendly gesture and hospitality. A drink or a light refreshment, donors spend time in a relaxed mood. It is the last point of contact actually of camp. It gives a good permanent impression in the mind of donors. This point can be easily, we can retain the donor or we can make him a regular donor. Donors should be advised to remain seated for at least 15 minutes, and hearty goodbye with a request to donate again should be there. A well-organized camp inspires many onlookers around to become a blood donors. Now, handling the donor reactions. See, what are the signs of minor reactions? You can see in a first-time donors, mainly you can see this thing like restlessness, perspiration on forehead, pale color, lack of willingness to communicate, and tendency to faint. These are the minor reaction signs. When reaction occurs, motivator or a medical social worker, They should remain calm, try not to get the other donors upset, call in a medical officer in charge of blood donation team, and ensure prevention of donor from falling down. You should handle with tender, loving care and compassion. Now, the next most important thing in the camp is the recognition of the donor contribution. Recognition after donation. The recognition helps as an automatic incentive. It gives a feeling of social prestige. It motivates the donor. It increases their participation. Donor feel appreciated and honored. It gives you it makes you a stronger commitment, and it always helps you in retention of donors. So these are some example of how you recognize your donors. Like you can give a thank you card, you can give certificates, you can give badges, you can give memento or any special award for your time donation, like 10 time donation, 25 time donation, 50 time donation, 100 time donation. These are multiple photos you can use. At the end of the camp, you can appreciate the organizer for their effort, ask them for any suggestions. You should fill up the camp report and the details of organizer for sending the blood grouping cards, grouping reports, and you can always ask them for the book for the next day camp. What's the date of the next camp? Now coming to a post camp phase, what is our role is the role of the blood bank. We have to make the camp report, the venue, details of group wise unit collected. They should be sent to the licensing authority and central licensing approving authority or SBTC within 7 days of the conducting camp. And also the camp details to the SACs in the monthly report, SIMS report. We have the column of this like the donation done in the voluntary donation camps and number of the camps we organized in a month. These are the reporting format. And what is the we should thank organizer for their support. We should send the donor cards and the donor reports and the list of donors timely within a time frame of even a week or anything you decide. You should respond to the queries of donors. We should honor the request of blood organizer for availability of blood if in case of a need of an emergency. We should express the gratitude to a donor by sending them even a birthday or anniversary greetings. And we should honor the donors at special occasions, these regular donors, like even the first time donors on the National Voluntary Blood Donation Day, an example for that. What is the role of organizers here in a post-camp phase? Even they should acknowledge and appreciate participation by calls, email, or newsletters to the donors, and they can try to make a camp a recurring event. And even a feedback to blood bank team about their and donor views will be helpful for the blood bank to improve even. It depends on the organizer. Now, what is the assistance by NACO for organizing blood donation camp? I might be wrong in that. It may vary from state to state also. But what I got is 2,500 per camp is allocated to SBTC. Equal contribution will be provided by states through their state grants. And 5,000 is allocated for one camp. Support is this amount of support is for refreshment, certificates, facility for transportation, DFO staff, and banner, poster, IC materials. I think so. This is only for the NACO supported blood banks. Now coming to mass blood donation camps. Now what is a mass blood donation? I gave an example of 7,000 units conducted at Pune supported by Salman Khan. See, it is a mass donation. Number of blood bank teams work side by side under the same roof, each collecting blood according to their respective capacity. Donor screening, registration, refreshment corner arranged for centrally together for all. What is the advantages? Is a mass awareness campaign in a limited resources. Demonstration effectiveness increases donor. You get a good amount of donor in a day, in a single day. Disadvantages: there's a lack of coordination between teams and organizers. It needs a very good coordination, but always it seems there is a lack of coordination. And the collected blood from the outstation camps are there. There is many times there no component are being made for that, and there is a huge amount of wastage of blood. That's why in 2012 April, NACO given a guidelines. These mega blood donation camps are not allowed to reduce wastage, and the maximum 500 donors they allowed for a per day, like maximum 200 units in 4 days, and total of 3 to 4 teams may participate with at least one counselor for pre-donation and post-donation area. These were the guidelines given by NACO in April 2012. There is no updated guidelines after this for a mega blood donation camps. This is my reference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi, for such an elaborate, but you have made the whole topic explained the whole thing in such an easier way. And this is a purely administrative topic actually. as I told, as I explained earlier, when we do MD or DNB, or when we are the blood bank officer, we realize what exactly the administrative topics are. And when we are working in the blood bank, we are not just the clinicians. There are many things. It is quite different from the pathology or clinical medicine. We play a very important role in administration also. And this is a purely administrative topic. And that was the reason why we chose, so that the new candidates like the MD, DNB candidates, those who are going to appear in the exam, they are very much aware what exactly the process is and what it should be. So after the end of this talk, now we have enough time to discuss about the Zoom polling results. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Ravi, and Dr. Divya is also there. And we all three can discuss about the Zoom polling results. So Divya, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. So Purnima, please start. So the question number 1 was about the amount or volume of blood collected at one time from a voluntary blood donor in India. Actually, we are talking in Indian scenario. It is in the 2 range, 450 and 350 ml. Other options were 200 ml, 400 ml, 300 ml, and 400 ml. So, Dr. Ravi, I think the correct answer is 350 and 450. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
Below 55 kg, we can collect 350. We should collect 350. After 55 kg, we should collect 450 ml of blood.
As per the guidelines.
As per the guidelines.
And in female donor, if she is if she is 60 kg, in that case, what it should be?
So it's better to collect 350, but you can collect even 450. It depends on weight, but it's better to collect 350 ml.
350 from the female donor.
Yeah.
So the slight change, like if even the female donors having 400 more than 55 kg, to avoid the vasovagal reaction, because the reaction probability is more in the female donors and more in the first time donors. So when the first time female donor is coming, irrespective of the weight, we should collect 350 ml. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I think very good. 94% participants have given, and 33 out of, I think, 36 have given the correct answer. So I think we should move on to the next question. So which of the following is an advantage of collecting blood from camps? So answer is very obvious. It helps in the donor retention, correct? It decreases replacement donation. It has safest source of the blood is the repeat voluntary donor actually. So definitely. Anything else, Dr. Ravi, would like to add here? And Dr.
Yeah, many, sir. Like we are giving them a friendly environment. We are giving a festive environment to them. You can convert the first-time donor to a regular donor. You can convert non-donor to a donor.
Correct, correct. So Dr. Divya, would you like to add something over here?
Sir, there are many benefits of collecting blood from camps. These are the most important ones. Sir has already highlighted the ones that are important.
Correct. So ultimately, what exactly the target is to have the repeat voluntary donors. So first time voluntary donor and the replacement donor, I think they should be treated as same. But when this first time donor becomes the 5th time donor, the safety of blood increases multifold. So ultimately, in organizing a camp, what is most important to give an environment to the donor? It should be a festive environment, and they should know what exactly to whom they are going to benefit. It is not just the benefit of the donor, but it is a great benefit to the society, particularly in Indian scenario, where there is such a huge scarcity of blood. So in that case, it becomes very important to give a festive and a good congenial atmosphere to the donors so that they become the repeat voluntary donors. So now I think we should move on to the third question. Now the next question is, the safest blood for transfusion comes from whom? Either it's first option is voluntary, first time unpaid donors. Family, second one is the family replacement donors. Third one is the paid donors. And fourth one is the voluntary repeat unpaid donors. I think the answer all we have given in the previous question, but Dr. Ravi can explain it better. Dr. Ravi, anything?
Yeah, sir, it is there. Voluntary, repeat, and unpaid donors. It is not a first time. They are repeat donors. Mainly, it's a safest blood, we can say.
Correct, correct. So repeat, I think is the most important, and paid donation is banned as per the order of the Honorable Supreme Court. It is banned in India actually for any kind of donation, whether it is stem cell donation or it is the plasma, like the plasma donors are coming for the COVID patients. It is the any type of blood donation, organ donation. It is unpaid in India actually. Paid donation is banned as per the Honorable Supreme Court. So it should be the voluntary, repeat, unpaid donors. Now, Purnima, next question. It's a very, very simple question. Actually, whatever the question we have given to the audience, the purpose of giving this question is not to test like an exam. We just simply want to make you aware when we do anything, we should do it through proper channel, and there should be a process, and there should be a SOP written in the form of procedures. So we just wanted to make you realize how SOP are important, how the checklists are important when we are going to organize a camp. This is one part of the checklist actually. What is the list of consumables to be carried to camp include glass slides, lancet, swab, blood donor questionnaire, and all of them. So as per the expectation, answers were 96% people have given the correct answer. Dr. Divya, anything else would you like to add over here?
The list was displayed in sir's presentation. Most of the items are from that list that have to be carried, and the answer has been correctly given by most of the participants.
So you would recommend, I think you would recommend to have a proper checklist when we go for a camp, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I think Purnimaji, we should move to the next question.
So I can share my experience before going to
Correct.
camp. If he doesn't use the checklist, what happens sometimes we forget to take the tourniquet.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. That's
Tourniquet, or you can say even BP apparatus. We don't have a BP apparatus also, tourniquet also. Some blood bank use BP apparatus, some blood bank use tourniquet. Now कहाँ से लाएं आप tourniquet हम? तो
correct,
हमें
correct.
मुझे याद है उस दिन मैंने कैम्प में फिर वो ये ग्लव्स यूज किए थे tourniquet बना के. क्या करें?
Correct. It becomes very embarrassing. It's become very embarrassing for a blood bank.
That's
And
why
the
you should have
organizers,
a habit of checking checklist with you.
correct, correct, correct. And because Ravi is from such an institute where more than 90% of the donations happen in the form of voluntary donation. He's from the PGI.
I'm from a PGI Chandigarh,
Correct.
and 90% of the blood is from the voluntary, and around 70,000 units. I think so many attendants are there from the PGI Chandigarh. They might have much more experience of camp than me.
Correct, correct, correct. So to avoid from the embarrassment and to give a good impression to the organizers, we need to have a checklist. We need to be ever ready. But yes, there should be some alternate options are also there. Like he said, now if there is no tourniquet, then he used gloves. So that kind of acumen sometime also we have to use. Correct. So the next question, Purnima. Who can conduct a blood donation camp? Who can conduct a blood donation camp? It's very important. I think very elaborately and in a very nice way. Dr. Ravi has explained, and he added one more thing, like the private hospital blood bank can also be a part of, they can also organize a blood donation camp as per the Gazette of India. So this is a new addition, actually new amendment. I think many of the people who are working in the blood bank may not be aware, but yes, a private hospital-based blood bank can also organize a camp. And if it is Gazette of India, we need not to have any permission. We need to simply inform the SBTC. Correct, Dr. Ravi?
Yes, sir.
We need not to have any permission. We can directly.
I don't think so, sir. But there are some society or state blood transfusion council. They even insist for taking a permission. But I think so. We should talk to them and show them the Gazette. It's not mentioned anywhere to take any permission now.
Correct. If it is Gazette of India, we need not to have permission. And when we are aware with this, we can very strongly suggest, we can very strongly, I think it would be just be I think a formality of getting the permission. But yeah, I think private hospital blood bank as per the Gazette of India have permissions to organize camps. Correct. So next question. Camps should not be held at jail and mental asylum. 85% people have given the correct answer. colleges can organize, office can organize, Gurudwara can organize. What is the reason behind this, Dr. Ravi? Why the jail and mental asylum, they cannot organize?
So it has been seen in a jail and all thing. There are high incidence of the HIV was there. There are papers like this also. So that's why it has been recommended not to conduct the camps in jail. Initially, before the incidence of HIV, so they used to conduct mainly camps in jail only,
Correct,
as they're
correct,
very easy to force them to donate blood.
correct,
But
correct,
they
correct.
have seen the high incidence of STDs are there in jail donors. So that's why they recommended not to conduct the camps in jail and asylums.
Correct, correct. And actually, if you see the guidelines also in the donation, one thing is written that the donor should be healthy. And the
Yeah.
health of definition, if the definition of health is exactly what it is, the mental, physical, and social well-being. In the jail and mental asylum, these two, like the social and mental well-being, is not there. So
Even
they
sir,
should not be considered
even
healthy
taking a
actually.
consent from mental asylum, sir.
Correct, correct. So they are not actually the mental asylum. They are not the healthy guys. So they cannot get. So nice question actually. So next question, Purnima. The role of blood transfusion services in a pandemic depends on type of pandemic, first option. Second option is potentiality of community spread. Third one is risk of transfusion transmissibility. And fourth one is cost effectiveness of blood safety interventions. The role of blood transfusion services in these pandemic depends upon, I think, all of the above. So correct answer is, I think, all of the above. 42%, 72% people have given the correct answer. Good, very nice. So I think 70 to 90% answers are correct. Anything else would you like to add, Dr. Ravi, in this
No, sir.
pandemic, the COVID pandemic, the experience of the blood banking in Jaipur and Rajasthan, because you are from that part? Would you like to share any incidents, any kind of?
So this time I think so in pandemic the mobile vans have helped a lot. We can go to their even societies to collect the camps and all things. I think so the use of mobile van has increased because of the pandemic.
Correct, correct. This is a
Yeah.
very important thing actually. And now, again, I would reiterate that COVID pandemic has given a new recognition to the blood banking. Like when we did the plasma, when we do the plasma, still it is going on. The number has decreased, but yes,
Yeah.
plasma therapy has worked a lot, and the people are now aware with two things. I think, COVID plasma, and second one is the RT-PCR. Even if the person is illiterate in getting tests, he wants to know what is my RT-PCR result.
Yeah.
Correct. So they know what is it. They don't know the full form of what is RT-PCR, but yes, they know what exactly the RT-PCR is. So the molecular has taken good place in Indian diagnostic in the COVID pandemic. And second, very important, the COVID plasma has given very good recognition to the blood banks actually. And actually blood, I think it's really the blood bank, many of the blood bank, I think most of the blood banks have given their utmost during this COVID plasma. And I think it's a very good experience if you want to share in a review article and something like how the blood banking actually changed in the COVID era, how we dealt with the donor, how we did with the COVID plasma when the whole country was sitting. We were dealing with the patient and patient relatives of the COVID patient relatives. So it was the direct interaction of the blood banker with the COVID patient relatives. Really hats off to the blood bank staff and the blood bank in charges of the different parts of this country, not the country, the whole world. So it gave actually recognition to the blood transfusion services. Very good, very nice answer by all the attendees. So 72% have given the correct answer. The next question. Next question. Advantages of mobile vans over fixed site blood donation camp include all except. Dr. Ravi, I think he has given a lot of things about the mobile benefits of having
Yes,
the
sir,
mobile.
but it is limited to large number. The audience are right. 64% has answered the large number of donors can be included, which we can't include as the number of beds are limited.
Correct, correct.
It may range from 2 beds to 4 beds maximum.
Correct. So that is the actual disadvantage. And the one very important thing, when we organize camp in a premise, it's altogether a different feeling But when we talk, when we go in mobile camp, we have to be very careful with the weather. When in extreme weathers, like in the hot summer days, we have to be very careful when we are having mobile vans.
Yeah.
Because there is extreme exposure of the donor when they come out after the blood donation. So probability is high for the vasovagal reaction. So we need to have very curious and very good staff to manage all those kind of scenarios actually. The probability would be high for the epidemic kind of fainting. Next question, Purnima. Approach to estimate need of blood include all except. It's a very good question actually. In relation to hospital beds, second option is in relation to total population, in relation to past blood usage, and in relation to OPD. So incorrect answer is in relation to OPD. Can you elaborate this question, Dr. Ravi?
Yes, sir. Like in relation to hospital beds, as I had given you an example, like there is an estimate of around 3 to 15 blood units per bed. So you can easily per year it is actually, like even my, when tell you 200 bedded hospital it is, into 15, I can say 3,000 units will be sufficient for my hospital if it is a basic hospital. If it's a super specialty hospital, it goes to 25 units per bed per year. With 25, it means it goes around 4,500 units.
Correct.
4,500 is more than sufficient for my hospital in a year, and I am also collecting the same thing. That's why our wastage rate is less, and you have a good number of blood units collected every month. Then this you can easily estimate your need of blood.
Correct.
In population, you can easily calculate number of population in your area, in the city, your city population actually, where you are serving, and number of blood banks you are having.
Correct. So actually, it helps in the infrastructure designing.
Yeah.
Helps in the forecasting of your services. It helps in giving a budget. Every year you are giving budget to the management for the upgradation of services and how to begin with. It helps a lot to the management as well as the blood bank officer, so that you can prepare your infrastructure, your equipments, and your manpower according to that. So this is very important in that kind of forecasting. Next. All statements are correct with respect to number of beds required except. This is for the number of beds for the blood donation as per the expectation of the donation, how much donation we would be having. First option is for 50 to 100 donors, we require 6 beds for donation. Second option is 100 to 200 donation, we require 8 beds. And if it is 50 to 100, it requires 8 beds. And the last one is 100 to 200 donors, we require 15 beds. So I think incorrect option is the, Dr. Ravi?
Yeah, sir.
It was very well elaborated in your presentation actually.
Yeah, it's 100 to 200 donors will require 15 beds. Actually, there is no need of 15 beds in this. 100 to 200 will be okay with 10 beds even. 8 to 10 beds is more than sufficient.
Correct. So that is, we do not require that much of bed. So in planning of the camp, it is very important to know, we need to know with the organizer beforehand, how much donation would, probable number of how much donation would happen, so that you can prepare your camp list according to that. Because everything, whatever we are going to use, it depends upon the number of beds we want to have in the camp. Next question.
This was the last question.
This was the last question. So I think the Zoom polling questions, I think we have done fairly well, and all the audiences, those who participated in this, have given fantastic answer. So it was between 70 to 90% the correct answers. Hats off to all of them. Now the next one, now we should come to the question answer part of this. There is one question by someone has asked about what is the role of feedback from the blood donors? Dr. Ravi, what is the role of feedback from blood donors?
Yes, sir. There is a very big role of feedback from blood donors actually. After going back to the camp, there may be a chances of even a reaction. Correct. Okay, and we doesn't know about that reaction. We even have a very little data on the post donation at home reaction or after getting or going up from the camp or even blood bank. Correct. Even we have conducted when I was in Vedanta, we have conducted one good study also, like post donation telephonic interview of the donors.
Correct, correct.
And what we got in that, there was around in first time donors, they were around 12% of the reactions were there. That happens late.
Correct,
And
correct.
in repeat donors, it was 13%, you can say
Oh,
around. So that was a very big number actually. We were even shocked to have this amount of reactions at home after going to donors. It's a role of feedback from donors is important. It
correct,
helps
correct.
you to plan accordingly next time even. To give
Mm.
a little more rest. It depends on how much rest you have given to the donors in the refreshment area or a donor resting area.
Correct, correct. It should be a very calm process. The process should be very, very smooth, and it is a time-taking procedure. So when any donor comes, I think we need to say at least you require 1 hour for the blood donation. So feedback becomes important not just to retain the donor. Feedback is also required as per the NABH and the blood banking license form actually. There should be a feedback on a prescribed form, either on a prescribed format or through a telephonic phone call. That feedback is very important from the blood donor, and to retain the donor, to get the feedback from him, whether he is having any kind of reaction. As Dr. Ravi said, many of the reactions, not many, but a good number, good chunk of donations reactions happen even after the blood donations. When they are
Even sir,
driving, reach home.
even a simple, you can say a hematoma or a bluishness
Correct,
of the site of the when you're pricked, actually where you've done a phlebotomy, it's a very
correct,
common reactions coming second day or even late after donation, even the evening. You collect you donated blood in the morning and you get the evening you're getting a bluishness. So that's why it's
correct,
a
correct,
feedback will help you to retain donors to make maximum क्या करते हैं donor फिर donate ही नहीं करते हैं. If you
correct, correct,
explain them properly, then they will become a easily a regular donor
correct,
then.
correct. And this is very common with the platelet pheresis
Yeah.
procedure. When the donor comes after 1 day and says that the whole arm is having bruise, kind of uh, the whole bluish arm. So it is the blood banker and the blood bank staff should not say, no, it happens, sometimes it happens. You have to give proper attention to the donor. We need to have consultation from the clinical doctor that why it happened. So it gives a lot of encouragement for the further donation. Just by saying that it happens sometime is not a correct answer. We need to have process in place to give them, like you just apply thrombophore, give them some refreshment, to get a consultation from a clinical doctor or the emergency doctor. They will prescribe some medicine. So that kind of follow-up, definitely this is the side effect, this is the adverse effect of blood donation, can happen with any donor. Out of 1,000, one donor can have this kind of. But your attention is very important. Uh, your response to the question given by the donor is very important if you want to retain the donor. Now the next question, I think the attendees must be happy with the answer what we gave. Now the next question by Dr. Etin, that if donor has reaction in hospital or at camps, do we need to inform the attendants also about the reaction, or just console the donor and send him home with instructions? Dr. Ravi?
So I think so. If the donor is alone, I think so. We should inform them even with the instructions even, and depends. If you settle the donor very well, you don't have to inform anything. Okay.
Correct.
If there is someone with them, inform them. If it happens again or it repeats, so tell them to lie down, keep your leg up. You can give easily the instructions. It's good to give the instructions. It's good actually.
Correct. How to manage?
Depends on the situation even.
Correct. How to manage? I think we can inform not to the attendants only. You can inform if the reaction happened in a camp. We can inform to the organizer also.
Yeah.
The donor reacts during the donor reaction, why it happened. Sometimes if the donor has come without morning breakfast and given, and this happens, then I think you can. There is no guideline actually to whom you need to inform, just the donor or the attendants. If you inform to the attendants or the organizer, it is good enough, I think, to prevent further. I think
they should. It's a duty to give our numbers to them. For any emergency came after donations, they should inform us, and we should react to that emergency also.
Correct. This happens sometimes.
It happens very quite often.
Sometimes a mild chest pain is also common. We have seen twice or thrice the donor present with a mild chest pain. We have taken to the to the emergency. And we've informed to the attendants also that during donation, this kind of reaction happened. This is not common, this is uncommon, but can happen with the first time donor. And it usually, most of the reactions happen with the first time donors actually. We can
So
inform to the
even
attendant.
I can share an example, sir. Even in my camps, even there was a delayed adverse reaction. We left the campsite, and there was a head injury to that donor after falling down because of vasovagal reaction. We
Oh,
immediately gone back and taken to nearest center, treated him for the first aid, and gone for the CT scan. If it was a clear, then we came back again. But it
ah,
is
that
you
is,
have to do, you have to react.
we have to react, and it is our responsibility. The donor, the
Yeah.
way the donor came, the way he should go. He should not, he has come as a healthy, he should go as a healthy one. So it is the responsibility of the organizer, it is the responsibility of the blood bank. And it actually helps a lot. You give attention to them, and the donors become your actually, you can make him a repeat voluntary donor. So there is no guideline. Just in brief, I just would like to summarize that there is no guideline that we should not, yeah, we should inform to the attendant or the organizer. But yes, seeing the condition and the kind of reaction it was, we can inform to the attendant or organizers. I think there is no more questions. I think it is all over. So it was a beautiful discussion what we had in the Zoom meeting. This Zoom poll, the beautiful question designed by the Dr. Ravi, Dr. Divya, and Dr. Sweta. And then this one, the two questions what have been asked, I think the attendees must be happy. Now, I think I would like to hand over mic to Dr. Arijit to extend his vote of thanks. Dr. Ravi, Dr. Arijit.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prashant. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Ravi. It was such an extensive and very informative session, particularly covering different aspects of organizing a blood donation camp, what, how, who can organize a camp, different phases, roles and responsibilities, and about mass donation camps. And also, thank you, Dr. Prashant and Dr. Ravi, and the panel for taking on the discussing the poll questions as well as the questions from the audience. I thank audience for participating in the interactive session and also attending throughout the webinar.
I think 125 audience were there total.
Yes, yes. Towards the end only there were a few dropouts, but then I mean most of the audience stayed along the entire course of the session.
Correct.
Primarily the reason for this is that any moment you could not leave the discussion because then you'll be missing something.
Correct.
I think it was very, very, very informative. And I would like to especially thank the team here at Polymed also, who is working behind the scenes in organizing these type of sessions. May I request Purnima to please flash the email address, and specifically I would want to reach out to all the participants here. If you have any request for the presentation or the webinar recordings, we do provide it, once you have written to us. And this we can do for the previous sessions also. Today, as you know, it's a part of a webinar series. We are on the fifth topic today. For earlier topics also, please do write to this email address for any recordings or the presentation. So with that, I thank all the speakers, moderators, and panel, and the organizers on the side of Polymed and the audience who are staying along the course with us. On 22nd of January, we shall be coming to you with the next topic, which is all about adverse donor reactions.